Cell cycle. The cell cycle is basically the life of the cell. This life is divided into 3 stages, which are known as interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. We'll start with interphase. The interphase is the longest stage that is in the cell cycle. At this point in the cycle, cells carry out their various functions inside an organism, such as cells making and releasing enzyme molecules in your stomach lining, which aid in digesting the food we eat. The interphase is divided into 3 phases. During the first phase of interphase, cells increase in size and make proteins and molecules necessary for a cell to function. Some organelles then begin to duplicate. In the second phase, DNA will make a replica of itself in the process called replication. During this process, the cell will copy the 3 billion base pairs of DNA information in the nucleus of the cell. The cell then temporarily has 2 complete sets of DNA. Replicating DNA ensures that newly formed cells will have identical copies of genetic information contained in an original DNA molecule.
Do you hate music? Do you hate earbuds and headphones? Well, look no further for Sakurai scissors. Just simply open the blade and cut. Simple as that. They even work on everything else. From lizards to gloves to headbands and even Lego figures. Ta-da! Get them today for only $2.99.
After DNA replicates, the cell continues to be formed after cytokinesis. These cells are usually referred to as daughter cells. Chromatin, which contains replicated DNA, is in a loosely coiled form. During this final phase before cell division, organelles such as mitochondria and chloroplasts will be duplicated. Now the next stage of the cell cycle is what we call mitosis. Mitosis is divided into 4 separate stages. These stages are prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. The first stage of mitosis is called prophase. In the prophase, replicated chromosomes coil up into X-shaped chromosomes and become visible under a light microscope. The nucleolus disappears, and then the nuclear membrane begins to break down. Inside animal and plant cells, spindle fibers begin to form. The spindle fibers then stretch across the cell from the centrioles that have moved to opposite ends of a cell. Centrioles organize spindle fibers during mitosis. The spindle fibers eventually complete forming chromosomes, then attach to the spindle fibers at their centromeres, and the nuclear membrane disappears. Next we got metaphase, which is where the spindle fibers start some tugging, in which that action pulls the X-shaped chromosomes into a single line across the middle of a cell. Then we have anaphase. In anaphase, the spindle fibers contract and shorten. This process pulls the centromere apart, allowing sister chromatids to move to opposite ends of the cell. After they separate, each sister chromatid will be considered a chromosome. The last stage of mitosis is called telophase. In telophase, a complete set of chromosomes is now at each end of the cell. The spindle fibers then begin to disappear, and the nuclear membrane forms around each set of chromosomes. A new nucleus appears in each of the nucleuses. There are now 2 nuclei in one cell, and the cell is then ready to divide. Finally, it's time to finish up this cycle with cytokinesis, the final stage of the cell cycle. In this last part, cytokinesis separates the 2 nuclei into daughter cells. These cells are identical to the original parent cell. In animal cells, the cell membrane will pinch together to divide the cell's cytoplasm and organelles. And in plant cells, a cell plate will form along the center of a cell, in which it then divides the cell into 2 daughter cells. And that's the cell cycle. Pretty complicated if you ask me.